On August 22nd, 1191, a Crusader army under the command of Richard the Lionheart, King of England, embarked on a critical campaign. After successfully capturing the coastal city of Acre, Richard turned his attention to the port city of Jaffa, a strategic location he needed to secure before advancing on the ultimate prize, the holy city of Jerusalem. This marked the next chapter in the Third Crusade, where the Crusaders sought to reclaim the Holy Land from the Ayyubid Sultanate, led by the legendary commander Saladin. Jaffa's significance had not been overlooked by the Ayyubids. In the summer of 1190, Saladin had ordered Jaffa's fortifications to be destroyed, anticipating its importance to the Crusaders. Richard, fully aware of this, meticulously prepared his forces for the march. His army was a formidable force, consisting of 2,000 mounted knights and 10,000 to 12,000 men-at-arms, including spearmen, archers, and crossbowmen. Saladin, determined to halt the Crusaders' progress, mobilized an army of 25,000 soldiers composed of skirmishers, heavy cavalry, and elite troops like Mamluks and Kurdish warriors, alongside contingents from Egypt, Syria, and Mesopotamia. His main objective was to prevent the Crusaders from reclaiming Jerusalem. Richard demonstrated exceptional leadership during the march southward. He prioritized his soldiers' well-being, knowing that the blistering heat of the Arabian summer could lead to exhaustion and defeat, as had occurred at the disastrous Battle of Hattin 4 years earlier. The Crusader army advanced cautiously, covering only 5 to 6 kilometers per day to avoid fatigue. Richard organized his forces with great precision, keeping the sea to their right flank to protect against ambushes. The march was conducted in the cool morning hours, with frequent rest stops near water sources. Additionally, a fleet of supply ships accompanied the army along the coast, ensuring provisions and medical aid were readily available. Despite Saladin's persistent harassment through skirmishes and archer attacks, Richard maintained order and discipline among his troops. His strategy of rotating infantry units kept his forces relatively fresh. By early September, Saladin recognized that his hit-and-run tactics were insufficient to halt the Crusader advance. On the morning of September 7th, Richard's forces began their march from camp, only to find themselves surrounded by enemy scouts. It became evident that Saladin's entire army was positioned nearby, ready to engage in a decisive confrontation. The terrain presented a unique challenge. The Crusaders had to traverse the forested region of Arsuf, one of the few wooded areas in central Palestine. Saladin realized this was an opportunity to strike, as the woodland would obscure the disposition of his forces, enabling a surprise attack. Saladin commanded his army to advance. His forces consisted of skirmishers, Bedouin and Sudanese archers, and Turkish horse archers, supported by heavily armored cavalry, including Mamluks and elite units. Divided into three sections: left flank, right flank, and center. Saladin himself directed the battle from a position surrounded by his bodyguards and kettle drummers. As Saladin's troops emerged from the forest, the Crusaders quickly formed a defensive position with their backs to the sea. Infantry held the front lines, supported by archers and crossbowmen, while mounted knights and the baggage train were stationed further back. Richard's forces stood firm, their shields raised, bracing for the assault. Saladin's forces unleashed a relentless barrage of arrows, seeking to provoke the Crusaders into abandoning their defensive formation. Many of his horse archers dismounted to fire more effectively with their light bows. Despite suffering casualties, the Crusaders resisted the temptation to charge prematurely. After enduring hours of relentless missile fire, the situation changed unexpectedly. The Hospitaller Knights, stationed at the rear, broke formation and charged directly into the Muslim lines. Their decision, possibly driven by frustration and the sight of their comrades being cut down, led to chaos in the Crusader ranks as nearby soldiers joined the charge. The heavy cavalry charge was devastating. The mounted knights smashed into Saladin's front lines, wielding lances and swords with deadly precision. Even Richard himself joined the fray, fighting alongside his troops. The Hospitallers' charge caught Saladin's army off guard. The momentum shifted as the Crusaders pushed forward, cutting through the Muslim ranks. Saladin's forces, unable to withstand the onslaught, began to fall back. Saladin, surrounded by his elite Mamluks, attempted to rally his troops. However, the Crusaders launched a well-timed counterattack, causing disarray among the Ayyubid forces. Many of Saladin's soldiers broke ranks and fled. Recognizing the situation, Saladin ordered a retreat to the forested hills of Arsuf, ensuring the safety of his remaining troops. The Battle of Arsuf was a significant victory for the Crusaders. While losses were difficult to assess precisely, Crusader chroniclers claimed that Saladin's forces suffered 7,000 casualties, though the actual number may have been lower. Richard's army reportedly lost around 700 men. Despite being a tactical victory, the battle did not guarantee the Crusaders' success in the Third Crusade. However, it showcased Richard the Lionheart's strategic brilliance and the resilience of his army, securing his reputation as one of history's greatest military leaders.